Welcome to Linguist Rising. Today we're going to dive into one of the biggest puzzles in all of linguistics. It's something that seems totally backward, but if you've ever tried to learn a new language, you know it all too well. Seriously, think about it. How can a tiny baby with zero lessons, no textbooks, nothing, become a perfect, fluent native speaker, while a smart, motivated adult can study for years and still get tripped up by grammar or a tricky accent? It's a huge paradox, right? Well, today, we're going to play detective and get to the bottom of this great language gap. All right, so our first clue in this mystery takes us to the scene of the crime, so to speak. We've got to start with the baby, this effortless little genius. To really get why adults struggle, we first have to appreciate the, well, frankly, magical way we all learned our first language, what linguists call our L1. So, how on earth do they do it? Well, the leading theory is a concept called nativism. The big idea here, made famous by linguists like Noam Chomsky, is that we aren't born as a complete blank slate. Not at all. It's more like we come into the world with a built-in starter pack for language, a kind of universal toolkit that's just waiting to be used. Chomsky had this fantastic analogy. Think about it. We don't really teach a toddler how to walk, do we? It's a developmental milestone that just happens. It unfolds. Well, nativists argue that our first language works the same way. It's not something we learn like history or math. It's a biological program that's already installed. We're pre-wired, and it just activates as we grow. And get this, we have some incredible evidence for this pre-wired brain. Check out this famous study. Researchers found that tiny babies learning English, at around 6 to 8 months old, could perfectly hear the difference between two sounds in Hindi that are totally alien to English. But look what happens just a few months later. By 10 to 12 months, that ability is gone. Babies start out as universal listeners, ready for any language on Earth, but their brains quickly specialize, pruning away the sounds they don't hear around them. It's amazing. And this biological blueprint follows a remarkably consistent timeline, no matter what language a baby's learning or where they are in the world. You've got babbling, then around age 1, that incredible first word. Then comes the 2-word stage, followed by what we call telegraphic speech, simple little sentences. The fact that this happens in the same order for almost everyone strongly suggests it's a built-in developmental path. Okay, so you might be thinking, are kids just amazing parrots? Are they just copying what they hear? Great question. And the famous WUG test proved that's not the case. Researchers showed kids a picture of a funny little creature and said, "This is a WUG." Then they showed them 2 and said, "Now there are 2." And the kids, who had never heard the word WUGs before, would almost all say, "WUGs." This was huge. It showed they aren't just imitating, they're figuring out the hidden rules of grammar, like adding an S for plurals, all on their own. Okay, so that's the baby's incredible journey. Now let's flip the coin and look at our second set of clues. Let's talk about the adult's uphill battle with a second language, or an L2, because as you're about to see, the experience couldn't be more different. I mean, just look at the starting line for each. On one side, you have an infant. Their brain is still developing, they're basically a blank slate when it comes to language, and they're in total 24/7 immersion. On the other side, an adult. Their brain is fully formed, they already have a complete language hardwired in there, and they're often learning in a classroom for maybe a few hours a week. They are, from day one, playing completely different games. And here's one of the biggest differences. It's a big phrase: meta-linguistic awareness. All it means is that adults can think about language. We can analyze grammar rules, we can look up words, we can consciously correct ourselves. A little kid who says "Daddy goed to the store" isn't thinking about irregular past tense verbs. They just absorb it. This awareness is a powerful tool for adults, for sure, but it also means we're learning analytically, not instinctively. And that just opens up a whole cascade of other challenges. Your first language can actually get in the way, causing errors. Then there's the emotional baggage, the frustration, the anxiety, the fear of sounding silly. Plus, the social stakes are way higher. As an adult, you're expected to express complex thoughts, and fumbling for words can be really intimidating. And of course, your exposure is usually tiny compared to a baby's, and it's not woven into the very fabric of how your brain developed. So, we have our clues. We have the baby's innate, automatic, journey, versus the adult's conscious, analytical one. I think it's time for the big reveal. Let's put these pieces together and officially solve the mystery of this great attainment gap. This quote from the research really just hits the nail on the head. Let me break it down. For a baby learning their first language, becoming totally fluent isn't just likely, it's the default setting. It's what's supposed to happen. But for an adult learning a second language, reaching that true, undetectable native-like level is the rare, rare exception, not the rule. The outcomes are all over the place. So why? When you boil it all down, it's not one single thing. It's more like a perfect storm of three factors. First, age and biology. The baby brain is just incredibly plastic and perfectly primed for this specific job. Second, cognition. For a kid, learning language is part of learning to think and see the world. For an adult, it's an academic puzzle to solve. And third, environment. A baby gets constant, meaningful immersion. An adult gets, well, a classroom. All three of these together create the gap.
So, what do we do with this information? I mean, is this all just a bit of a downer for anyone trying to learn a language? No, absolutely not. Understanding the why behind the struggle is actually incredibly empowering.
And this right here is the most important idea I want you to walk away with. As an adult learning another language, you are not failing at being a baby. You're succeeding at a totally different and honestly a much more complex cognitive task. You can't compare the two journeys. It's like comparing a swimmer to a rock climber. They're different sports with different rules and different skills.
So, let's just recap the big ideas. First, learning your native language as a baby is a biological marvel. Second, as adults, we use a whole different set of tools, like our ability to analyze and read. Third, because of this, having a huge range of outcomes in adult learners is totally normal. And finally, that perfect native-like accent, that's usually the absolute final and highest mountain to climb.
So I want to leave you with a final question to chew on. Knowing everything we've talked about, if your goal is to get as close to fluency as possible, what can we as adult learners steal from the baby's playbook? How can we create more immersion in our lives? How can we be less afraid, just play with the language and make mistakes? That's a question definitely worth exploring. Thanks for joining me today.